Hello everyone, welcome back to Alkaline Hydroxide 784, and today it is a special video. It is not part of any series, and we all know that in about a month or so, everyone would have finished their OP, I think. What I mean, the PWOP. In other words, project work, oral presentation. Yeah, actually it's not other words, this is expansion. Okay, never mind. And basically we wait no not we sorry. Yeah, so basically I would like to share with you some tips on how to cover the OP, because for the rest of PW you are supposed to depend on your whatever your teacher says, because every year PW, the way it works changes a little bit, so that you can like just there isn't really a consistent format every year. Although there are certain aspects that are consistent every year, like for example the presentation, you still need to present what you, and there's still certain skills that you need no matter which year it is. And yeah, so I'll be talking about that today. Okay, so the first thing I will talk about is, well, before I give you any advice or anything, just tell you how OP ties into your entire PW journey, if that really matters to you, I guess. But it does matter, I think, whether you think so or not. Okay. Well, you know that your project work is like, it comes in stages. You start with coming up with the problem, then you do your research, and then you write down, you think of solutions, then you write down everything in your written report, while getting information on how people would respond to your solutions. And then afterwards you come up with an analysis of what your solutions are, or what are the, like what where are the gaps, or where are the room for improvement, and as well as what are the benefits of your solution, in a sense. And after you finish writing your report, and also your individual pieces, like your analysis and everything, the final step is the oral presentation. And this goes for every project. I mean, not the part where you do written report analysis part, but like the oral presentation in general. Many projects will end with a presentation, because the idea is, the purpose of having a project is to generate information, to generate knowledge, in a sense. And at the end of it, you need to share it with other people. Just keeping it to yourself isn't going to do much. And that's why I do find it a bit stupid that at the end of every year all the PW scripts just go to waste, because the government can't really do much, like doesn't actually do anything with the information that we generate every year. There's a lot of useful ideas, there's a lot of good things that come out through like doing PW, but many of these ideas are quite hard to do it ourselves. Even if they're ground up ideas, it's a bit hard to implement it, because we need a certain budget, or we need certain skills or manpower to actually do it. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. The point is, at the end of every project you need to share your information. So that's the point of OP. Like, that's it, that PW is basically like the simulation of an actual project that you can do in the future, or like a general process of doing a project. So that's how OP ties in to the PW journey. And also, in university you will be doing projects as well as in the workplace. And for these projects you will definitely be sharing your information via a presentation, most likely, because, well, I can't really think of any other way of doing it. But yeah, this is actually preparing you for that stage. Like, you need to have at least one experience before you go to university, and then um, experience the same, set of doing projects in a much shorter amount of time. So I think it's still useful. I think OP is at least the most useful part of the PW journey, because you can actually do the same thing. Like, you can use the same skills in a future project. Okay, so the next part is the percentage of your marks that this actually goes towards. And basically the OP is, well, it takes about 50% of your marks. I believe that is because the, you know, 11% comes from the group segment and 39% comes from the individual. So actually OP takes up a lot of the marks. I just realized. Oh wow. Oh wow. Good luck for your OP. Do well. Okay, so you should do well in your OP, and it actually a lot of the OP marks go to your individual. So it's important to ensure that your 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 presentation of the speech, your delivery is, actually good. And also at the same time you have the group mark, which means that, the entire presentation has to be cohesive. Your group, whatever your group members are saying, has a logical flow to it. It's not like one person talks about one thing, then another person talks about something that has no relation to the first. It has to be some kind of relationship in the sense. Okay, so yeah, in a way, the oral presentation is quite important, and that's why I have this video for you to hopefully improve yourself before the oral presentation in the first week of November. Okay, uh, now let me move on. I do know that all the criteria are there in the PowerPoint, in the PDF, the syllabus thing, and you can just go and read that yourself, because honestly, uh, I don't really want to go through the criteria and everything. That's not really worth my time. But I will probably give you tips on how to fulfill the criteria. So I will still be looking at it to help me remember what are the criteria for the oral presentation. So yeah, let's go. So the first thing in the oral presentation is, well, you need a PowerPoint slide. And of course, okay, you need the speech and you need your PowerPoint slide. So I will start with the PowerPoint slide because that's what I put in my document first. Okay, so I think this I think this would be most relevant to the group segment because it has to be an effective presentation. Yeah. So in the sense, the PowerPoint slides have to complement what you're saying, and they have to be useful, they have to be effective in whatever information they're actually conveying. And contrary to popular belief, you do not need to put a ton of information in your PowerPoint slides because, well, you're going to be telling out the information. Why should you put the same information in your PowerPoint slides? That either means that you're expecting, okay, it either means that you're giving a lecture and you want people to have access to the information, or you do not have confidence in people understanding what you're saying and you want them to read the PowerPoint slides instead, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But at the same time, you still need some kind of information that is related, or there's some kind of summary to what you're saying so that people don't forget what you started off with, in a sense. Like for example, okay, let me just say some random, I don't know, paragraph of stuff. Okay, Singapore is a very rich country. It has a very high GDP with some stats, put in some, I don't remember the stats anyway. Yeah, just put in all the stats and everything. And therefore it is, um, and oh, that can be seen in how most people have homes to stay in and have access to food and stuff like that, like, and have access to medical care and stuff. Like, you get the point. And if you're talking about that in general, well, what would you summarize it with? Basically it depends on the context. If you're going, let's say maybe you're going to talk about something that people's maybe you're talking about the issue about people not being gracious, like, the third world people in a first world country issue. You could be talking about that. And you can and your for this particular paragraph, your summarized words would be something like, oh, Singapore is a first world country, or something like that. it's related to what you're saying, and maybe just put like one or two of the stats that people probably won't remember anyway. But like, don't put too much text. Don't put your entire paragraph in words on the PowerPoint slide. And you know what's even better than words? Images. Yes, if you have an image of, you can put Marina Bay Sands or something, and you're already like showing, okay, look, this is Singapore. It has Marina Bay Sands. It's rich. You get the point. Nah. You convey the point using a picture or using effective title or something. And yeah, that's the main thing that you need to take note of in your PowerPoint. Even if you screw up all your colors or your font or whatever, just make sure that whatever content you put there is actually effective. But the other things that I just mentioned are also important in a way because people are looking at your slides. You want them to actually, you know, not feel uncomfortable looking at them in a sense. So you need to choose the right colors, and of course you need to choose the right fonts. So how do you do this? I'm pretty sure your teacher might have given you some websites or given you some ways to figure out the colors. But there are websites where you can find complementary colors. Okay, not like colors that complement each other well. Because if I say complementary colors, it goes to the term of complementary colors like blue, orange, yellow, purple, red, green. But that's a bit too simplistic. Let's move on to more, like you prefer to have colors that are like in like both all three blues but slightly different shades of blue or something like that, which would not look too contrasting, but at the same time it has a sense of cohesion in the slide. Like what I mean is, for example, if you were to put a blue color slide with orange color text, the only person who would be satisfied is me because I like blue and orange. So yeah. But if you do it wrongly, the text may look really like the slides and the text may look like two completely contrasting colors, and it may end up ruining it. But it is possible to still do blue and orange if you use not overly bright colors and somewhat and moderate the color a bit. But I'm pretty sure you won't be using blue and orange. It sounds like a bit weird, like a weird color scheme for your slides to begin with. But I do suggest using blue and greens because they're quite calming colors, and they also seem to suit a PowerPoint slide kind of it feels more professional, and at the same time it is nice and aesthetic, especially turquoise. I like turquoise. But you can choose to use other colors if you want a more beige-ish kind of background. Then you can use beige and like brown, or yeah, you can just go to the website. You can search online. If I can find the website, I'll put the link for it. You can go to the website and then just randomly generate some colors, and then if you want to adjust it a bit, you can. And once you get a bunch of colors that works well, just use that scheme. Don't need to like just copy the hexa number, that thing that represents the color, and use it in your PowerPoint or your Google Docs or wherever you're making your PowerPoint slides. Okay, cool. And finally the fonts. Okay, this is actually very important because I mean you can use the most basic fonts that you can find, like Times New Roman or something. But look, that's boring. You shouldn't be boring. That's the important thing, not to be boring. But at the same time, don't use overly weird fonts or like overly, script like fonts, like the ones that look like really the flowy handwriting kind of font, because people can read it properly. Use fonts that are somewhat legible, but at the same time it plays well into your colors and your theme in general. But don't overthink it also, because honestly this is just make sure it looks neat. Like you don't need to worry too much about it being super aesthetic. Just make sure it looks neat and it complements your colors, that's all. Like don't overthink it. I think for my for my group's PowerPoint slides, we use Polygon or something. Yeah, so if there's a font that you want but it's not in your font list, you can download it very easily from online. But don't like you if it's not, so you don't need to pay for it, just download it for free. Yeah, don't use the paid one because it's not worth it. Okay, cool, great. So let's move on. um so you have your color combination, you have your fonts, you if you and the content and pictures will be depending on what your speech is. So how do you write your speech? Okay, first of all, you need to look at your written report, of course. Yeah, you look at your written report. Think about which information you need to include, because I'm pretty sure you cannot include each and every last bit of information in your written report. And you also have to think about which parts of your report you need to emphasize the most, because well, in typically you would emphasize your solutions, because that's the main point of PW, right? To find a solution to the problem. So like if you are talking about research, like how you research the problem, you don't need to over talk about it. Like you can talk a little bit less, but at the same time give enough information on it, and then you devote more time to your solution section, as well as the like the benefits or whatever stuff that follows after that. I'm not sure how your written report format is, so yeah, so you should decide how you want to allocate your time for each of the written report sections. And I'm pretty sure that you will be able to write a decent speech with the information from your written report. Okay, so another thing is the style of language in your speech. In your written report, it will sound somewhat formal, and it will sound like something that you would write, like the way you the written language in a sense. So when you convert it to a speech, you should try to make it sound a bit more of a spoken language rather than a written language in a sense. But that doesn't mean you can start using Singlish when you speak. Uh, you you can you can make it just a little bit more casual, but not overly casual. You know what I mean? Like imagine like how those people talk at TED Talks. Try not. That's the amount of casualness you need. You don't need to make it too casual, but don't make it too stifling for people to, like, for the people who are listening to you. Yeah, don't make it too stifling. At the same time, don't make it overly casual and make include slang or something. Don't do that. So what do I mean? Well, maybe like how I would talk in some of my videos, but without the likes and without the slang, if I use slang for that matter. And also a bit more concise than how I speak. Yeah, so that kind of level of casualness would be helpful, I think. Uh, but don't worry too much about it. If you really cannot, like, if you really do not know what is that point of casualness that you need, just go with however you read, like the way that you wrote it in your written report, because it is grammatically correct at the very least. If you attempt to change it a bit and then you end up making it in, like, you end up making a lot of grammar mistakes in the process of making it casual, then you kind of failed in your you kind of failed writing your speech properly, in a sense. um and of course, do read over it aloud in your head a bunch of times. I think that's the easiest way to tell if your speech sounds like a speech. If it sounds weird and clinical in your head, then it's obviously not a speech. It just sounds like you're reading out something. But if it sounds like a speech that you can easily intonate, or make it engaging, then it is a speech. That is quite important in the sense. Okay, wait, let me drink some water. Okay, so now that you have your speech, and you need to translate the information from the speech into your slides. So feel free to use images, use as many images as you need, but like don't have too many slides also, because then you need to be clicking through all of the slides. um, do have an appropriate, like for example, if your if your section has 5 points, then you can have one slide for each point. Yeah, you can literally have like one single slide for one point, because there'll be an image in it and that will fill up the space in your slide. So you don't have to worry about not being enough stuff in your slides. You will definitely be able to fill it up. So like for example, if your solution, you can definitely put an image of your solution into the slides. Or if it's the problem that you're describing, you can either use those images from online, or like those icons, that kind of thing. Or if you can find an actual image that is relevant to your topic, then put it in. It always helps to have images in a sense. Or if you don't want to put an image but you want to put something like a flow chart, go ahead and do that. That is also an efficient way to transmit information. So if that particular section feels right to be presented in a flow chart, like if it feels right to you that you present it in a flow chart. To be honest, I don't think I'm speaking very grammatically today. Then go ahead and do it, I guess. So yeah. And of course, after you finish writing your speech in terms of the content, make sure it is grammatically correct. Make sure that, of course, the spelling mistakes, you can't tell it because you're telling it out. You're not showing them the written speech. But do correct the spelling mistakes, because I think you still have to hand in your speech or something. I'm not sure. So yeah, do correct your spelling mistakes or whatever it is. And if you have any wrong words, then replace the words. You know, like the GP wrong words. I don't mean bad words. I mean wrong words. Like words that don't actually make sense in the sentence. Yeah, so make sure your words make sense in the sentence. And yeah. Okay. So after you write the entire speech together as a group, the next part is to dole out the different parts of the speech to each person. Okay, so you would have 4 or 5 people in your group, so you can kind of give one section to each person. And if you have only 4 people, then one person will be taking on 2 sections. Of course, the things to take note of is first the length of the section. So some people may want to talk for longer, so you can give them a longer part, or like they are more confident in actually giving that part of that section of the speech. Then go ahead and give it to them, because I think it's important that you're comfortable with the section of speech that you're talking about, in the sense that you're actually presenting. And also the personality of each person, if you're the very excited kind, and you seem like, if you're able to talk in like a very salesperson, selling your idea kind of style, then give them the solution part of it. If they can effectively sell the idea, in a sense, or maybe the benefits part, maybe not necessarily the solution itself, but the reason why the solution works. They can make it sound like so convincing, like, look, see, our solution is so good, it does this. Okay, maybe not talk like that, but but like have the same vibe when you give your part of the speech. So yeah, that's what you take into consideration. And the length of the section is also useful if you have one person who needs to do 2 parts. So you can give them 2 shorter parts, so that when they're combined together, it isn't too long for them, in a sense. And yeah, if there's someone who has trouble pronouncing, sorry, who has trouble with pronunciation, in other words, pronouncing certain words, you can ask them which part of the speech is the easiest for them to tell out. Then you can give them that part of the speech. And with every other aspect in PW, this requires mutual agreement, mutual understanding. So do discuss it in your group and decide who should do which part of the speech. And yeah, so once you got down your content and you make sure your language is the language is okay, you can make your speech a bit more entertaining, engaging in the sense. um so individually, if you want to infuse your a little bit of your personality into that section, go ahead, but don't overdo it until that part looks very different from the rest of the speech. So if you have any interesting anecdotes or interesting phrases that you can use, like idioms or some anything that makes it sound more interesting to listen to, you can add it in. Just don't ruin the meaning of the speech and don't take too much time to say that part of the speech, because I know you have a time limit of about 10 minutes, I think. So don't talk too long, don't talk for so long, but don't talk too little either, because then the examiners don't have anything to examine. Yeah, so actually what I have written here is don't overtell nor undertell. Sound exciting when you're telling the speech. Like, so you have to make it seem exciting to say lah. Like, you cannot create a sentence without any emotion in it. And write it in a simple to understand yet good English. So you don't have to use very chim complicated words unless you talk like that on a normal daily basis. I don't know. Sometimes there are some people who actually do talk like that on a normal daily basis. Or maybe not daily, but every now and then they just randomly insert this word. Uh yeah, it's kind of like how I'm like reminded of random science terms when I see certain abbreviations or certain references. Oh well, I can't help it. But anyway, yeah, just and if you want to relate it to your PowerPoint slide, you can do it. Like if you have some interesting thing to add to your base, like once if you feel inspired by your slides, then you can, modify it a little bit to reflect what your slides, show in the sense. Um, yeah, so the next thing is practicing it. So the first part of the speech, the first thing that you need to be able to do is read out the section of your speech. So the first time that you get this that you get to practice it, just read it out once. Make it something that you are able to remember or tell. Actually, in my group, we did our sections ourselves rather than do the speech as a group. I mean, we already had the information that we wanted to use, but like we typed out the different parts of the speech ourselves. So if your group is the kind that is very cohesive and thinks alike, you can actually do this. So it's a bit easier for you to remember your part of the speech. Because I feel like it's easier to remember what you wrote. But if your group is the kind who has a bit too many differences, then you should try to write down the speech once before you do your personal modifications. Okay, so yeah, so the first thing you should do is try to remember your speech, of course. If you end up remembering it in a like if you there's this certain phrase that you always end up saying it in a different way, then go ahead and use that phrase as long as it is grammatically correct. Like for example, oh we we originally started this project with the intention to help hawkers, I don't know, do something. But then what you end up saying every time was that we we initially wanted to help hawkers or something like that. If it's only like one word or something that you just keep using a different word, then just change that word. Just use the word that you remember more easily. Yeah, it's okay. If it doesn't change the meaning too much, then you can just do that. If it's helpful for you, just do that. At the same time, don't change the meaning of your speech. That's all. Just don't. As long as the meaning is retained, and you're comfortable with actually saying it out, then use that particular phrasing. Yeah, and of course, it has to be grammatically correct. That's important. Okay. Uh, after So that's what I call adaptive correction. So if you want to make any revisions or corrections to your speech, you can do that as you read it out a bunch of times. Okay, so once you read it out and you're familiar with it, the next thing you should take note of is how you read it, and like how your voice is, how your voice sounds in a sense. So the first thing that everyone will think of is pronunciation, because English is hard. Everyone and English words are weird, like they have weird pronunciation sometimes. For example, the word pronounce versus the word pronunciation. There's like two different pronunciations between these two words. So yeah, English is weird. But it's okay. I mean, I don't think you will use any words that are so hard to pronounce that you'll just be stumped by it. Use words that you can easily pronounce, and if you are unsure of any pronunciations, you can go and look up online. But I don't think you have to be super worried about pronouncing like the word exactly like how it's supposed to be pronounced, because let's be honest, everyone, like different cultures say different words differently. So as long as the word that you're saying is not legible, is can be heard clearly by the people who are listening to you, it is okay. This isn't P6 English oral. You just need to make sure all your syllables are pronounced correctly. Like your syllables are pronounced clearly and um articulately, in the sense you need to articulate whatever word that you're saying. So if you do have a certain pronunciation problem, like for example, sometimes with the R sound or with a T versus a D sound or something like that, then you can just practice that particular sound a bunch of times. Find some example words to try pronouncing a few times, and use it, and then practice on the word that's in your speech that's giving you the problem. Okay, so and of course it may not be just your native, sorry, it may not be just your own ability to pronounce. It may also be whether your throat is wet enough, or if it's too dry, or if your lips are like too dry. That may actually affect how you pronounce certain things. So make sure that you're actually comfortable before you start. And another thing that actually helps is like what I'm doing right now. I think I'm trying to project my voice a bit more, and that helps me pronounce words a lot easier than when I normally talk, which is a bit more mumbly in the sense. Um, so like for example, I'm mumbling now, and it's hard for me to pronounce certain things clearly. As you can see, the noticeable volume difference. So I'm talking normally now, right? So let's say I'm saying a sentence really quickly, like actually that one. See now, like actually, I didn't even say the word actually properly because I was just mumbling. But if I decide to project my voice, it helps me to pronounce my words a lot more easily. So I think it's also about the speed on which you speak. So if you speak too fast, you will not be able to pronounce and articulate your words clearly. But if you speak slow, like what I tried to do just now, you can say all the syllables properly and make sure that you don't mumble over your words. So now I'm going to, project my voice. So first you need to sit up straight, and then just try to use your core, or like try to project it. So okay, hello. I don't know what to say now. I feel if I talk too loud, it will end up disturbing a lot of people. Yeah, I'm like really loud right now. Let me now revert back to my original voice. Okay, so so the best way to be loud is to to project it from your core, and also sit up straight or stand up straight, obviously, because you're going to be standing. So don't slouch, just keep yourself straight. Or maybe I'm just loud already. Oops. Yeah, actually I was quite loud when I was doing the OP. Never mind. So you should be able to project your voice across the room. So if you want to test your ability to talk loudly, send your friend to the other end of the room, like the back of the room, and then talk to them. See if they can hear you. Maybe not talk, but like maybe say your speech. That's the important part, right? uh yeah, so if you practice this every day or every 2 days, you will definitely get it over time. Do not worry about that. Especially in terms of the pronunciation, articulation, the speed that you should speak at. And yeah, so just do vary it according to your abilities and how much time you actually have to present your section. So I'm pretty sure you will be fine. If you do have any questions, you can ask me. I think I'm a good enough person. I'm good enough at this to help you. Uh, yeah. Okay. So the last thing that, to be honest, I have problems with sometimes is the hand gestures, and or when you're nervous, you do certain weird things. Yeah, so what are you supposed to do when you're speaking? What do your hands do, or what does your head do? Um, well, the first thing you need to do is, if you start from the head, you should try to glance at each of the people sitting in the, like, each of your audience members every 5 to 10 seconds. Like, of course, don't dart your eyes around. That's not how it works. But instead, you can look smoothly, like make a smooth continuous motion of your eyes from one end to the other, or like not necessarily one end to the other, but maybe like your left, then your center, then your right. You can split it up into 3 parts, and make sure to look at everyone at least once. It depends on how long your section is also. So you should try to look at everyone once or twice at least. So that's important, the eye contact. So the next part is your hands. For your hand gestures, I suggest that you don't do those things where you flip your hand like this. Unless that is your natural hand gesture, then you can go ahead and do that because it'll look natural. But if it's not your natural gesture, and you tend to do it a little bit lower or something, then okay, just do that, because I think it's best to make it look natural and not too artificial, or um not too manufactured in the sense. Yeah, you should make your gestures look comfortable. You shouldn't make it look like it doesn't gel with your speech or something. Yeah. And for the nervous actions, well, if your nervous actions are hand gestures, then I guess it's okay. But if your nervous action is holding your skirt or your pant or whatever, then try not to do that. Try your best not to do that. Try to do hand gestures instead. At least, it'll look more interesting than holding your skirt or your pant or whatever. Or if you tend to bite on your tongue or what, I doubt you'll be doing that because you're literally speaking the entire time. You don't have a chance to bite your tongue. But or if your eyes keep darting around because you're nervous, or you cannot look at the people directly in the eyes, just look at their forehead instead. That's good enough. Just look at them. But don't look at the ceiling, don't look at the clock, look at the people. That's the important part. Yeah. So just make sure that, like, try to calm down before the OP. Of course, you will never truly fully calm down. Even for people like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm a good example, but even for really calm people, you will get nervous before your presentation. So just make sure that your nervousness is not overly, like, overwhelming to the extent that you can't even speak or something. Do continuously drink some water, keep your throat moist, keep yourself calm, and like maybe if you need to if you need to do any deep breathing before your section or before the thing starts, go ahead and do that. But don't look super obvious and doing that and distract everyone. Do it in a do it in a calm way, I suppose. Yeah, deep breathing always helps. Just take a breathe in for like 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out for 4 seconds or something. You can do it for as long as you want. Yeah, you can change the number of seconds. Just make sure you have enough time for all the parts of the breathing, I guess. And of course, sitting up straight helps because it makes you feel a bit more confident. It also give yourself more room to breathe in. You can have more air in your lungs if you're sitting up straight. And yeah, also just smile. Try to smile a bit. Maybe it'll help you calm down a bit, because sometimes a fake smile or a fake laugh can make you feel happier somehow. Right. uh yeah, so I think that's pretty much all of the stuff about talking in your speech part, I guess. And the last section is the Q&A section. So this is another thing that I didn't mention earlier when you're writing your speech. But if you want to, usually the part that comes after the solutions, like the benefits and the areas of improvements, if you have 2 or 3 points, you can use one of the points in your slides and then use another one, keep another one for your Q&A. Because you will know that, like, the point of Q&A is for the examiners to ask questions in the areas where you didn't really say stuff, or if there's knowledge gaps. So if they do that, you can always use the stuff that you already wrote and prepared, and you can tell the answer much easier. You can also use information from your own individual work, like for example the analysis, if you really do not have any content that you can remove from your speech. So yeah, that's pretty much it actually. If you are the kind who cannot think and on the spot, this is a useful advice, actually, like preparing it beforehand. And if there's other questions that you can still prepare like answers for it beforehand, or some kind of relevant information. So even if the question that they ask is slightly different, you can still use the information first, and as you talk, you can think of more stuff to add in, or you can think of a way of cohesive, like gluing it back. Sorry, what am I saying? Cohesion reminds me of glue. Okay, sorry. You can think of a way to bring it back to the question, in a sense. Yeah. And you are given some time to think, so you do not have to answer immediately. You can take like a few seconds to actually think about the answer. And if you're the kind who tends to get nervous or panicky when you're suddenly asked a question, then this is a good thing that you can do, which is to use that time and then calm yourself down, quickly come up with the structure of your answer. You don't need to think of the entire, like imagine if you're writing a GP essay, like your GP essay is the answer. You shouldn't be thinking of each and every word in the essay. You should be thinking about that structure that you write before you write the essay you're planning. Yeah, so you should think about that, and then the rest of it should be filled in as you speak. That's how it should be. So you also have a time limit for these questions. So I guess you cannot do anything about that. It's gonna be there. But you should be aware of it, and also think of how long the answer can be to be within the time limit, or how long it should at least be so that it doesn't look too short in the sense, and use that to prepare yourself mentally. Okay, so finally, the last thing that you would want to do after all of your preparations is to go there and present, right? The final thing that you can do. So on that day, or maybe before that day, you will get a chance to go and test your PowerPoint in your classroom. Please do use that chance well. Make sure your PowerPoint is okay. It doesn't jam up the computer or something because of all the animations that you're using. So don't use too many animations. But yeah, if your or see whether the computer is able to present the fonts in your PowerPoint or whatever. If there's an issue, you can at least change it quickly. But apart from that, there shouldn't be any issues in terms of the content or anything. Just the aesthetics that may pose a problem. Um, and the other thing that may happen is if you have a certain last minute change. For example, in my group, one of our members was sick on the day, or like the day before our OP. So our OP was postponed to the following week. Yeah. I guess it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, I don't know. But please be prepared for such things to be, please prepare yourself if such things happen. If you're sick, please don't like force yourself to go for OP, because your sickness may actually affect your pronunciation or the way that you present your speech. So I believe if you are actually sick, please tell your group members immediately. If you're willing to postpone it, then just do that because you get more time to prepare and also get some time to recover from your sickness. Uh, I think if you want to avoid being sick, do eat well, like eat properly, like eat fruits and vegetables, and also drink a lot of water, especially when you're practicing your speech. And sleep on time. It's not like you're studying for. I mean, you don't have anything to do now apart from practice your OP. If your promos have ended, especially, you definitely will not have anything else to do. So go and sleep on time. Make sure that if you need to exercise, go and do that also. Don't get sick. That's the point. But if you do get sick, tell your group mates and inform your teacher, and you'll be fine. No worries. Uh, yeah, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, on that day you can ask some of your classmates to be your audience if you are one of the groups that if you end up with someone who is sick and you need to postpone it, you can get some people to be your audience if you want. I mean, it'll be more fun to have some audience than to have a bunch of empty chairs staring at you. Honestly, way more lively that way. Yeah. So yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And if you're in the case of someone being sick, the rest of the group members still have to come on that day, because they need to sit there and be the audience for the other two groups that are presenting on the day. So you can bring some homework or something to do if you want. I don't know. Or your book that you never got to read, you can finally read it. Yeah, so you just do that, I think. Okay, so I know this video is extremely long. It's like 48 minutes. So I'm gonna just say, if you found this useful, if hopefully, good luck to everyone who's all the J1s doing the OP this year. And if you found this useful, please press the like button and subscribe. And with that, I would like to say thank you and bye.